In this video, we're going to look at magic and spellcasting in Warhammer 2.5 Advanced. Spellcasting in magic is the part of the system that will change the most often, usually from game to game, simply because it's the most fun for me to play with. It's also the system that players will interact with the least, since playing a character with magic is a massive responsibility that only one or two people will want to take on each game. If you're not one of those people, it's still worth watching this video, since it's very likely that at some point, someone will use the information here to try and kill your character. Also, at the end of this video, there will be some general information on insanity that will apply to everyone. The 4th edition of Warhammer FRP is hot garbage, but even in garbage it's possible to find 1 or 2 diamonds. In this case, we're going to borrow many of the components for arcane and divine magic to use for this system. In order to cast arcane magic, you need 5 things. You need to have the channeling skill, you need to speak an arcane language, you need to have access to spells through a lore talent, you need to be able to speak, and you need to have at least one hand free or holding a reagent. Actually, casting a spell only requires speaking a few words of power and making a gesture or two, so casting is a free action speak arcane language roll. It's not quite that easy though. Each spell has a casting number, and in order to cast successfully, you have to achieve degrees of success on your casting roll greater than or equal to the casting number. A petty cantrip might require simple success, but more complicated spells require 1 to 10 degrees of success. In order to cast more complicated spells, you must first channel and shape the energy required. Channeling is an extended action. Each degree of success on a half-action channeling test reduces the casting number of the next spell cast by 1. You can continue taking channeling actions as long as you don't take any other actions, even free actions, in between. If you get distracted or interrupted, you have to make a hard willpower test or lose all accumulated successes and suffer a minor manifestation. If you fail a channeling test and get doubles on the roll, you suffer a backlash of energy that interrupts you. Standing in a casting circle helps regulate the flow of magic. It takes 1 minute or 6 rounds to draw one, and the character must succeed a challenging agility test. If you are standing in a casting circle, you don't roll, and any channeling test automatically gains 2 degrees of success. Magic spells are naturally unstable. If you just try to fling off a bit of power on the fly, it will try to get away from you. You can stabilize spells by using sympathetic ingredients. If you have the spell's listed reagent in your hand when casting, you ignore any italicized text in the effect description. In addition, you can choose to reroll the 1s die after making your casting roll. The reagent is always consumed, whether or not the spell casts successfully. Sometimes, you may find that you've put just a little too much oomph and overcast your spell. For every 2 degrees of success beyond the casting number, you can add 1 unit to an element of your spell, making it go further, or deal more damage, or affect more targets. Each spell will tell you what parts can be increased, and by how much. Bending the raw forces of chaos to your will isn't all flowers and ponies. Sometimes chaos bends back. Anytime you roll a doubles on a casting roll, chaos takes the opportunity to manifest in the mortal realm. If the roll was under your skill, the chaos manifestation is minor. If the roll was over your skill, the manifestation is major. If you manage to roll a 100, the manifestation is catastrophic. There are a few special rules for certain types of spells. Some spells require you to physically touch your target to cast. In combat, roll weapon skill to make a touch attack. Touch attacks may be dodged but not parried. A character can only have 1 shield spell active at a time. Any new shield spell cast will overwrite the previous one. Aura spells have an effect over a certain area. If 2 aura spells overlap, both spells are cancelled. Certain spells cast as magic missiles. Magic missiles require direct line of sight to cast, and hit their targets automatically. If the hit location is important, it's determined by reversing the numbers on the casting roll, just like normal combat. Spells can also trigger Ulrich's Fury if you roll a 10 for damage. Make a willpower test, and if you succeed, apply multiple wounds as normal. Spellcasters can attempt to counter their opponent's spells by rolling Speak Arcane Language as an opposed test versus the caster. The spell casts with the degrees of success scored on the opposed test. A cast spell will take effect for its full duration. To attempt to dispel an ongoing effect, roll Speak Arcane Language as an extended test until you accumulate degrees of success equal to or greater than the spell's casting number. If you have a written copy of a spell you have not yet learned by spending experience, you may still attempt to cast it. Read casting imposes a -20 penalty on the casting roll and takes a full action to complete. Wearing armor negatively affects spellcasting. You suffer a penalty to your casting roll based on the type of armor you are wearing. If you have the armored casting talent, this penalty is reduced by 1 step. Not all magic is dredged up from the realms of chaos. Priests and other holy characters can be granted power by their respective deities. Divine magic is more restricted than arcane magic, but also less dangerous. Mechanically, the two function similarly, with a few notable differences. In order to call upon the power of your god or goddess, you must have the pray skill, have either the bless or invoke talents, and be able to speak. Any priest can offer their blessings. Characters with the bless talent can actually offer real benefits. Blessings use the pray skill and take a half action as your character intones a rote prayer. Each of your blessings can only be in effect once. The same blessings from different characters do not stack, and each target can only bear 1 blessing at a time. For each 2 degrees of success on a blessing, you can add your charm score to the number of targets for the blessing. A priest with the invoke talent can call upon their god or goddess to perform miracles. Invoking a miracle is a full action pray test. The power of the gods is not to be used lightly. If you roll doubles on a failed pray test, you incur the wrath of the gods. Roll D100 and consult the table to determine your particular smiting. The fantasy worlds we roleplay in are rarely nice places. All manner of horrors lurk in the dark places, and over time these horrors will take a toll on characters' minds. We track this strain through the use of insanity points. There are a number of ways for a character to gain insanity points. Characters who take grievous injuries must often succeed a willpower test or gain 1 point as part of the injury's effect. Monsters which cause fear or terror may also force a willpower test to avoid gaining insanity. A player character who delivers the killing blow to a member of their own species, or something close enough to their own species, may gain an insanity point for being a murder hobo. And anytime the situation is particularly mind-bending, the GM may decide it's bad enough to warrant characters gaining insanity. When a character has 6 insanity points, they have to make a willpower test. If they succeed, nothing happens. Every time they gain a new insanity point after that, they have to make the willpower test again. Once they fail this test, they lose 6 insanity points and gain an insanity. The effects of this insanity may be chosen at random, or chosen by the GM to reflect the situation. Insanity can be a powerful role-playing tool if handled properly, or it can be an annoying imposition on a character's personality. Work with your GM to find the balance that's right for you and your character. Insanity doesn't necessarily have to be permanent. There are ways to deal with it, just none of them are terribly great or easy to come by. Perhaps the least horrible way is through the use of magic. Certain characters may have access to spells that allow you to remove or reduce the effect of insanities. Insanities may also be cured through medical treatment. If a character has the surgery talent, they can attempt to remove insanity points or cure insanities through a heal test. This is a rather dangerous option, as botching such a treatment can actually make the patient worse. Insanities may be suppressed through the use of drugs and tonics. A character with the trade apothecary skill may attempt to create a remedy for a character's insanity. Each remedy must be crafted for a specific character, costs 2d10 gold crowns, and requires a very hard trade test to make. If successful, the mixture can suppress the insanity for a week. If they fail, the potion might be toxic or worse. And that wraps it up for these tutorial videos. If you've sat through all of these, it's either because you've been invited to a game, you're trying to get invited to a game, or you're so far down the YouTube rabbit hole that you should seriously just go to bed already. I've been your Gaming Operations Director, Jacob Matthew. Thank you for watching.